Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel. We think we have only 5 senses: sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch. But what if I told you that is a half-truth we've been told since childhood? Tonight, we will gently unravel the forgotten senses, those subtle, invisible threads your brain uses every day without you even noticing, and perhaps, by the end, you'll realize you've been sensing the world in ways you never imagined. Close your eyes for a moment, and imagine your awareness floating in a quiet space. No sound, no light, just your mind. Gently noticing the pull of gravity, the position of your body, the faint rhythm of your heartbeat. These sensations are not part of the famous 5, they are the hidden human senses. And tonight, we are going to explore them together. Slowly, softly, like wandering through a secret library of your own biology. For as long as most of us can remember, the world has told us we have 5 senses. It is a neat, tidy number, taught in brightly colored posters in classrooms, illustrated in children's books with smiling faces pointing to eyes, ears, noses, tongues, and hands. Sight, hearing, smell, taste, and touch are 5 windows into reality, 5 channels feeding our brain with the information it needs to survive. It sounds so complete, so perfectly rounded, so easy to remember, and perhaps that is exactly why the myth has survived for so long. But like many truths simplified for convenience, it is only part of the story. The reality is softer, stranger, and much more intricate than the picture painted for us in childhood. Imagine standing in a dark room, your eyes closed, no sound, no wind on your skin, and yet, you still know you are upright. You still know where your hands are, even without touching anything. You might even feel the slow roll of your stomach digesting food, or the faint pounding of your heart in your chest. None of these belong neatly to sight, sound, smell, taste, or touch, and yet they are just as real, just as constant. These experiences don't fit into the 5-sense framework, but they are happening right now, in you, in me, in everyone who is alive. The problem is, the old list of 5 senses ignores them entirely. The origins of this 5 senses idea trace back to ancient Greece, specifically to Aristotle. The philosopher observed that humans gather knowledge through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. It was a revolutionary way of thinking at the time, organizing experience into categories, making the intangible tangible. But Aristotle's neat list wasn't meant to be the ultimate, unchangeable truth. He didn't know about the nervous system in the way we do now. He didn't have the language to describe neurons, synapses, sensory receptors, or the brain's complex processing centers. His list was a useful map for the time, but as centuries passed, it became not just a map, but a rule. It solidified in school books, in science diagrams for children, in the quiet assumption that there are, and always will be, 5 senses and no more. Yet science has been whispering a different truth for decades. Modern biology and neuroscience reveal that our sensory system is not made of 5 parts, but of many, overlapping and interconnected. It is more like a symphony of specialized channels, each tuned to a particular type of information. Some of these senses are obvious once you name them, like the sense of balance, but others are so subtle we barely notice them, even though they shape our every moment. The 5-sense myth also shapes how we imagine perception. We tend to think of senses as external, windows to the outside world, when in reality, much of our sensory life is internal. The body is constantly monitoring itself, reading signals from deep within, adjusting to maintain balance, warmth, hydration, and safety. The same nervous system that alerts you to a warm breeze on your skin is also tracking your blood pressure, detecting changes in your oxygen levels, and sensing the pull of gravity on your muscles. But because these inner senses are quieter, less dramatic, they are often ignored. One reason this myth survives so easily is that the classic 5 senses are easy to point to and easy to test. We can demonstrate sight by showing a picture, hearing by playing a sound, taste by giving you a lemon, smell by bringing flowers to your nose, and touch by brushing your skin with a feather. These senses are easily isolated, easily understood. The others, the hidden ones, resist such neat demonstrations. You can hold proprioception in your hand, or taste vestibular awareness. They live in a quieter layer of consciousness, where sensations are more like a gentle background hum than a sudden burst of color or sound. The idea of five senses also fits into our love of symmetry. Humans tend to find satisfaction in numbers that are small, whole, and easy to remember. We like things to fit into patterns. Five senses feels balanced, much like the 5 fingers on each hand or the 5 vowels in the alphabet. But biology is not obligated to fit our aesthetic preferences. Nature often creates systems with complexity far beyond what we find convenient. Our sensory system, with its many channels, overlaps, and feedback loops, is a living example of this complexity. There is also the influence of language. In everyday conversation, when we say sense, we often mean the dramatic, obvious ways we interact with the outside world. We say we sense danger or sense a storm coming, and most people think of sight or hearing. Rarely do we think of the sensation of knowing where our elbow is without looking, or the awareness of how much air fills our lungs at this very moment. Our vocabulary shapes our awareness, and because our vocabulary has been built on the 5-sense model, we overlook the subtler ones. But when you pause and really listen to your own body, the myth begins to fade. You realize you can feel the floor pressing against the soles of your feet, not just as touch, but as a sense of pressure. You notice the exact angle of your neck, the alignment of your spine. Even with your eyes closed, you sense hunger rising like a slow tide, or the cool air against your cheeks shifting into warmth as you move into the sun. These are senses at work, perhaps not the ones Aristotle named, but no less real, no less vital. The 5-sense model also shapes our education. By teaching children that there are only 5, we unintentionally limit their curiosity. We make it seem as though perception is a small, finished set of abilities, rather than a vast, evolving system that scientists are still mapping. Imagine if, instead, children grew up knowing there were many senses, some obvious, some hidden, and that they could explore them through careful attention. The act of simply closing your eyes and noticing your balance could become an early science lesson. The quiet realization that you can feel your own heartbeat could be a moment of discovery. The truth is, the brain doesn't care about our neat categories. It gathers information from every receptor it has access to, whether that receptor lives in the retina of the eye, the inner lining of the stomach, or the tiny hairs inside the inner ear. It processes these signals, cross-references them, blends them, and creates the seamless reality you are experiencing right now. Even as you read these words, your body is measuring the angle of your posture, the temperature of the air, the faint background hum in the room, and the slight dryness in your throat. None of this belongs solely to sight, hearing, smell, taste, or touch. Indeed, perhaps this is the most beautiful part of shattering the 5-sense myth, realizing that perception is not a small, fixed list, but a living, dynamic network. It is a system capable of astonishing sensitivity, picking up information from both outside and inside, weaving it together so quickly you can barely notice the individual threads. You are not just a person looking out at the world through 5 windows. You are a vast, intricate instrument, alive with subtle detectors, some you know well and others you have never truly named. And this means that every moment of your life is more detailed, more layered, and more connected than you might have ever believed. In the quiet hours before you knew the truth, there is a quiet sense inside you that never truly rests. It doesn't live in your eyes, or your ears, or your nose, and yet it allows you to move through the world without constantly watching yourself. It is the invisible guide that tells you where your body is, how it is positioned, and what it is doing. You can close your eyes right now, lift your arm above your head, and still know exactly where it is without looking. That awareness, subtle, constant, almost invisible in its effortlessness, is proprioception. The word itself is gentle and strange, coming from Latin roots meaning one's own, and perception. It is, quite literally, the perception of yourself, not in the philosophical sense of self-awareness, but in the physical sense. The quiet map your brain keeps of your body's position, posture, and movement at all times. This map is not painted with colors or sounds. It is drawn in angles, stretches, tensions, and pressure. It tells you how bent your knee is, how far your fingertips are from your shoulders, how tightly you are gripping a pen. It lets you reach for a glass of water in the dark without missing, or walk downstairs without staring at your feet. Proprioception is possible because of countless sensors scattered throughout your muscles, tendons, and joints. These sensors, called proprioceptors, are tiny biological instruments that constantly measure the length and stretch of muscles, the pressure on joints, the load your limbs are carrying, every tiny change in your body as position sends a signal up through nerves to your spinal cord and brain, where it becomes part of that invisible map. The process is so fast and so constant that you don't have to think about it. In fact, you couldn't stop it if you tried. If proprioception were suddenly gone, the world would feel strange and unsafe. Without it, even the simplest movement would become clumsy. You might have to watch your own feet as you walk, because you could no longer feel their position. Picking up a spoon could require your full attention. Your movements would feel disconnected, as though your body belonged to someone else. Scientists have seen rare cases where people lose proprioception due to illness or nerve damage, and their struggle reveals just how much this hidden sense supports every step we take. What makes proprioception so remarkable is how it works in harmony with other senses. It doesn't operate in isolation. It blends with your sense of balance, with your vision, with your tactile sense of touch. When you catch a ball, your eyes track its movement, but it's proprioception that tells your brain exactly where your hand is in space so it can meet the ball at the right moment. When you dance, proprioception lets you coordinate your movements without staring at your own limbs. When you type on a keyboard, it allows your fingers to find the right keys without watching them. Even now, as you sit here, proprioception is quietly active. It tells you that your weight is resting more on one hip than the other. It tells you that your head is tilted slightly, or that your shoulders are hunched. You can become aware of it if you pause and notice the bend of your elbow, the exact angle of your wrist, the position of your tongue in your mouth. It is like discovering a background hum you had been ignoring all along. This sense is also key to our ability to move gracefully. Athletes, dancers, and musicians train their proprioceptive awareness to extraordinary levels. A violinist must know the position of each finger on the string without looking. A gymnast must twist and flip while knowing exactly where their body is in midair. And a soccer player must guide the ball with their feet while scanning the field. In all these cases, proprioception provides the silent feedback that lets them move without hesitation. Interestingly, proprioception can be shaped and sharpened. Balance exercises, martial arts, yoga, and even mindful walking can all heighten this awareness. Closing your eyes while performing a movement forces the brain to rely more heavily on proprioceptive feedback. This is why rehabilitation after injury often includes balance and position exercises to rebuild that internal map, to teach the brain to trust the signals from the muscles and joints again. Proprioception is not only about movement, it also plays a role in stillness. When you hold a pose, it is proprioception that tells you how much tension is in your muscles, whether your shoulders are level, whether your back is straight. It allows you to remain in a position without constant visual monitoring. Even lying down, it lets you know if you are curled into a ball, stretched out, or resting on your side. Without it, your body would feel unmoored, as though it were floating in undefined space. Some scientists believe proprioception is deeply tied to our sense of embodiment, the feeling that our body is truly ours. When this sense is disrupted, strange illusions can occur. In experiments, researchers have tricked people into feeling as though a rubber hand was their own, simply by synchronizing touches on the fake hand and the hidden real one. This blending of sight, touch, and proprioceptive signals creates a false map in the brain, making the fake hand feel real. Such experiments reveal how delicate and adaptable our sense of self-location can be. Children develop proprioception early, but it continues to refine as they grow. This is why toddlers often move with a certain wobbliness. Their internal maps are still being drawn and redrawn with every new movement. Play, climbing, running, and exploring all feed the proprioceptive system with new data, helping it become more accurate in adulthood. We take it for granted until age, injury, or illness reminds us of how much we depend on it. There is something poetic about proprioception, this quiet sense that is both invisible and ever-present. It is not dramatic like vision or hearing. It does not present the world in vivid images or melodies. Instead, it anchors you within your own skin. It reminds you that you are here, in this position, in this posture, at this exact moment. It is a compass, not pointing north or south, but pointing inward, always telling you where you are relative to yourself, even as you breathe. Proprioception is at work. Your ribcage expands, your shoulders rise slightly, your diaphragm pushes downward, and your brain notes it all without fuss. You shift your legs beneath you, and it knows. You reach for a glass of water, and it knows. You lean your head to one side as you sink, and it knows. It is the sense you almost never notice, yet it is the one you use every waking moment, and even in sleep, it continues to hum quietly in the background, keeping track of the gentle rise and fall of your breathing, the roll of your body from one side to the other, the stretch of muscles as you dream of running or flying in a place where the rules of gravity no longer quite apply. There is a sense that is always awake, even in the darkness, even when your eyes are closed and the world around you is silent. It is the quiet keeper of your balance, the invisible stabilizer that allows you to walk in a straight line, stand upright, or turn your head without the world spinning out of control. This is the vestibular sense, the system that lets you know where your head is in space, how it is moving, and how your body should adjust to keep you steady. The vestibular sense lives deep within your inner ear, in a place so small you could cover it with your fingertip, yet so complex it has been compared to a gyroscope inside the body. Hidden behind the delicate structures of hearing, there are 3 curved canals of the semicircular canals, and 2 small sacs called the utricle and saccule. These tiny, fluid-filled structures are lined with hair-like sensory cells, each one sensitive to the slightest motion. When you turn your head, the fluid moves, bending the tiny hairs. This movement becomes a signal to your brain. You have turned to the left, you have tilted forward, you are spinning clockwise. The semicircular canals detect rotational movements, the tilts and turns of your head. The utricle and saccule detect linear movements, up, down, forward, backward, as well as the pull of gravity. Together, they tell your brain not just that you are moving, but how you are moving. This is how you can feel the difference between tipping sideways and falling backward, between accelerating forward in a car and rising upward in an elevator. If the vestibular sense were suddenly silent, the world would feel uncertain. Standing still might feel like balancing on a tightrope. Turning your head could make the room seem to spin. Walking would become difficult without constantly looking at your feet, because you would no longer have that inner stabilizer telling you where upright is. In fact, when the vestibular system is damaged through illness, injury, or inner ear disorders, people can experience vertigo, a disturbing sensation where movement and stillness blur into one another. What makes the vestibular sense so remarkable is how it works in concert with other senses. Your eyes give you visual information about your position. Your proprioception tells you where your body is. But it is the vestibular system that confirms which way is truly down and how fast you are moving. When you spin in a circle and suddenly stop, it is the vestibular fluid still swirling inside your semicircular canals that makes you feel dizzy, even though your eyes say you are still. The vestibular system is also deeply connected to our reflexes. There is something called the vestibulo-ocular reflex, a mechanism that keeps your vision steady even while your head moves. If you shake your head no while keeping your eyes fixed on a word in front of you, you'll notice that the word stays clear instead of blurring. That is your vestibular system sending signals to your eye muscles, telling them exactly how to move in the opposite direction to cancel out the motion of your head. Without this reflex, the world would seem to bounce and jump every time you took a step, even in stillness. The vestibular system is busy. It constantly monitors the pull of gravity, adjusting the tone of your muscles to keep you upright. You don't have to think about leaning slightly forward when you walk uphill or shifting your weight to counterbalance a heavy bag on one shoulder. The vestibular sense coordinates those adjustments automatically. It is the invisible partner in every movement you make. This sense also plays a powerful role in motion-based experiences. The joy of swinging back and forth, the thrill of spinning on a playground merry-go-round, the rush of riding a roller coaster. All of these sensations are magnified by the vestibular system's response. It is the same system that lets you feel the graceful sway of a boat beneath your feet or the gentle rocking of a train as it glides down the tracks. These experiences can be pleasant, but they can also become overwhelming if the system is overstimulated, leading to motion sickness. That uneasy feeling during a long car ride or a choppy boat trip comes from a mismatch between what your vestibular sense is feeling and what your eyes are seeing. From our earliest days, the vestibular sense shapes how we move through the world. Babies develop it even before birth. rocked gently by the motion of the mother's body. In the first months of life, this sense guides the early attempts at lifting the head, rolling over, and sitting upright. As children grow, activities like spinning, swinging, jumping, and balancing strengthen their vestibular awareness, helping them navigate a world full of motion. The vestibular system also contributes to our emotional sense of safety. There is comfort in feeling steady, in knowing that the ground beneath you is dependable. When the vestibular system works well, it allows you to move without fear of falling, to turn your head quickly without disorientation, to trust your body as place in space. When it falters, even simple actions like bending over or stepping off a curb can feel uncertain. Interestingly, the vestibular sense influences more than just movement. Research suggests it plays a role in regulating mood and attention. Rhythmic, rocking motions can be calming, perhaps because they create predictable vestibular patterns. This may explain why rocking chairs, hammocks, and slow, swaying motions are often soothing. Even gentle head movements during music can create a pleasant vestibular rhythm that blends with auditory pleasure. Astronauts know the importance of the vestibular system better than most. In the weightlessness of space, the pull of gravity is gone, and the signals from the utricle and saccule no longer match the brain's expectations. This can lead to space motion sickness in the first days of a mission, until the brain adapts to the new conditions. Back on Earth, the readjustment can be just as challenging, as gravity returns and the vestibular system relearns its role. The beauty of the vestibular sense is in its subtlety. You rarely notice it unless it is challenged. When you turn your head to follow a bird in flight, when you step from a moving escalator onto solid ground, when you lean forward to whisper to a friend, the vestibular system is quietly orchestrating each shift in balance. It is not loud or obvious, but it is constant, always there, always informing your brain of the invisible dance between your body and the pull of the earth. Even as you sit here now, your vestibular sense is alive. It feels the slight forward tilt of your head as you read, the way your shoulders shift minutely with each breath, the faint adjustments in your spine to keep you upright. If you were to close your eyes and slowly lean to the left, it would know. If you were to tip your head back and look at the ceiling, it would know. If you were to stand, spin once, and stop, it would flood you with the swirling sensation that reminds you motion has just happened. It is the constant interpreter of where you are in relation to the unseen pull that holds you to the ground, the silent guardian that steadies you as you move through a world that is never truly still. There is a sense that does not look outward at the world but turns inward, gazing into the quiet, shifting landscapes of the body itself. It is not concerned with the colors of the sky or the sound of the wind, but with the heartbeat pulsing beneath your ribs, the slow rhythm of your breathing, the stretch of your stomach after a meal. This is interoception, the sense that tells you what is happening inside you, moment by moment, without the need for conscious thought. Interoception is like an internal mirror, always reflecting the state of your body back to your mind. It lets you know when you are thirsty before your lips are dry, when you are hungry before your stomach growls loudly enough to hear, when your muscles ache from overuse even before you try to move them again. It is the soft whisper that tells you to shift your weight when you have been sitting too long, or to lie down when fatigue creeps in. Without it, you would be a stranger to your own physical needs. This sense begins with a network of receptors scattered throughout your body, in your skin, your muscles, your joints, and especially in your internal organs. These receptors are sensitive to a variety of conditions: temperature, stretch, chemical balance, pain, pressure, even the levels of oxygen and carbon dioxide in your blood. They send constant streams of information through nerves and into the spinal cord, and from there into specialized areas of the brain, where the data is interpreted and transformed into the feeling of being you. One of the key centers for interoception in the brain is the insular cortex, a region tucked deep within the folds of the cerebral cortex. Here, signals from all over the body converge, creating a detailed map of your internal state. This map is not static, it changes from moment to moment, reflecting the shifting tides of breath, heartbeat, digestion, and countless other processes that keep you alive. Even as you read these words, your insular cortex is quietly tracking the subtle rise and fall of your chest, the steady warmth of your skin, the fullness of your lungs, and the faint hum of your heartbeat. Interoception is more than just awareness. It is also regulation. When your body senses that your core temperature is rising, it triggers sweat to cool you down. When your blood sugar falls, it sparks the feeling of hunger. When your oxygen levels drop, it urges you to breathe more deeply. Many of these processes happen below the level of consciousness, but the sensations they produce, the thirst, the hunger, the shortness of breath, rise into awareness as gentle nudges, guiding you toward the actions that will keep you in balance. This sense shapes not only your physical comfort but also your emotions. The feelings we call fear, joy, anxiety, or calm are not purely mental, they are deeply tied to the body's internal state. A racing heart, shallow breathing, and tense muscles can create the sensation of anxiety, just as slow breathing, a steady heartbeat, and relaxed muscles can foster a sense of calm. Interoception weaves these physical patterns into the tapestry of emotion, so that every feeling you have is, in part, a reflection of your body's inner world. You can test your interoceptive awareness with a simple exercise. Close your eyes, place your hand gently over your heart, and count your heartbeat without touching a pulse point. Some people can do this with surprising accuracy, while others find it difficult. This difference in ability reveals that interoceptive sensitivity varies from person to person. Those with heightened interoceptive awareness may be more in tune with their emotions, able to recognize the bodily signs of stress or excitement more quickly. Others, with lower sensitivity, might only notice these changes when they become intense. Interoception is not something you have to earn, it is part of being alive, but it can be cultivated. Practices like meditation, yoga, and deep breathing exercises encourage you to focus on bodily sensations, strengthening the connection between your mind and your internal state. Even something as simple as pausing to notice your breathing, or feeling the gentle expansion of your ribs, can sharpen this sense over time. Athletes often rely on interoceptive skill to pace themselves, adjusting their effort based on the subtle signals from their muscles and lungs. Singers and wind instrument players tune into their breathing in the same way, shaping each note through the awareness of internal movement. There are times when interoception becomes distorted or muted. Certain medical conditions, brain injuries, or mental health disorders can disrupt this sense, leading to a disconnect between the body's state and the mind's perception of it. For example, someone might fail to notice hunger cues until they are faint, or they might misinterpret normal bodily sensations as signs of illness. Anxiety disorders often involve heightened interoceptive sensitivity, where normal variations in heartbeat or breathing are perceived as threatening. On the other end of the spectrum, reduced sensitivity can make it difficult to recognize the body's needs until they are urgent. Children develop interoception gradually. Infants cannot name their hunger or fatigue, but they feel it, and they respond with cries, movements, and other signals. Over time, as they grow and language develops, they learn to connect these internal sensations with words and actions. I am hungry, I am tired, I am cold. Yet even in adulthood, many people remain only partially aware of their internal signals, living most of their lives focused outward on the world, unaware of the quiet conversations happening within. One of the most fascinating aspects of interoception is how it contributes to our sense of self. Without it, the body could become a kind of ghostly shell, moving through the world without the anchor of internal feeling. With it, you are not just a mind riding in a physical vehicle, you are an integrated whole, with thoughts, feelings, and bodily states blending into a seamless experience. The heartbeat you feel when you are nervous, the flutter in your stomach when you are excited, the heaviness in your limbs when you are exhausted, all of these are threads in the fabric of your being, woven by the hands of interoception. Even in moments of stillness, this sense is alive. Right now, it knows the exact tension in your jaw, the moisture in your mouth, the warmth in your hands. It knows how full your bladder is, the rhythm of your breathing, the pressure in your stomach. It listens to the faint shifts in your blood pressure, the subtle chemistry of your blood, the gentle contraction of smooth muscles deep inside you. All of this information flows silently, moment by moment, creating a living map that your mind can access whenever it turns its attention inward. It is possible that interoception also plays a role in how we perceive time. The steady beat of the heart and the rhythm of the breath may provide an internal clock, subtly influencing how we experience the passing of moments. When we are calm, these rhythms slow, and time can feel more spacious. When we are stressed, they quicken, and time can seem to rush by. In this way, Interoception may be not only a guide to our physical needs but also a shape of our perception of life itself. Even as you sit here, perhaps still and quiet, interoception is awake. It feels the slight stretch in your muscles as you shift in your seat, the gentle cooling of the air over your skin, the exact fullness of your lungs as you inhale, the soft release as you exhale. It notices the pulse in your neck, the temperature of your hands, the calm or quickened rhythm of your heart. It is not a loud sense, not a demanding one, but it is constant, unbroken, and intimately woven into the experience of being alive. There is a sense that drapes itself over you like an invisible blanket, a quiet awareness that does not show itself in colors or sounds but in the gentle comfort of warmth or the sharp sting of cold. It is not sight, not hearing, not touch as we usually think of it, but something more specific, more ancient. It is thermoception, the ability to feel temperature, to know without looking whether the air is warm or cool, whether the water will soothe you or make you shiver. This sense begins in the skin, but it does not end there. Across the surface of your body, tiny receptors are embedded in nerve endings, each tuned to detect a certain range of temperatures. Some respond to heat, others to cold, and together they paint a thermal map that your brain reads constantly. These receptors, known as thermoreceptors, do not measure temperature in numbers the way a thermometer does. They respond instead to changes, to the sudden drop when you step from a heated room into the winter air, to the soft increase when sunlight falls across your arm. They tell you not the exact degree of warmth or cold, but the direction of change, the sensation of moving from one thermal state to another. When you touch something warm, microscopic proteins in the heat-sensitive nerve endings change their shape, opening pathways that send an electrical signal racing along the nerve toward your brain. When you touch something cold, a different set of proteins reacts, triggering a signal from the cold-sensitive nerve endings. These signals travel to the spinal cord, then to the thalamus, the brain's sensory relay station, and finally, to the somatosensory cortex, where the raw information becomes the conscious feeling of warmth or chill. Thermoception is not just about comfort, it is a guardian of survival. The body can only function within a narrow range of temperatures. If your core temperature drops to low, cells slow their activity, organs falter, and life itself is at risk. If it rises to high, proteins begin to lose their structure, and the delicate machinery of the body starts to fail. Thermoception works with other systems to keep you within that safe zone, triggering shivering to generate heat, or sweating to cool you down. Without it, you would have no warning until the damage was already done. This sense also operates deep inside you, monitoring the temperature of your core, not just the surface of your skin. Specialized receptors in the hypothalamus keep constant watch over your internal warmth, adjusting blood flow, breathing, and metabolism to maintain stability. When you step into a hot bath, the warmth you feel on your skin is only the beginning. Your body responds by dilating blood vessels near the surface, allowing more heat to escape, while your internal sensors make sure your core temperature remains steady. Thermoception is closely tied to emotion and comfort. Warmth often carries with it a sense of safety, the glow of a fire on a cold evening, the heat of sunlight on your face after a long winter, the cozy embrace of a blanket. Cold can be invigorating, sharpening your senses, waking you from sluggishness, but it can also bring discomfort, driving you to seek shelter and warmth. These feelings are not accidents, they are evolutionary signals, nudging you toward conditions where your body will function best. Interestingly, the perception of temperature can be influenced by more than just the environment. Your emotional state can alter it. Stress can make your hands feel cold as blood is redirected toward your core. Joy or embarrassment can warm your face through a sudden rush of blood. Even imagination can play a role. Picturing yourself in a warm, sunny place can sometimes make you feel a little less chilled, while thinking of icy winds can make you shiver without a drop in temperature around you. There are curious illusions in thermoception as well. If you place one hand in hot water and the other in cold water, then move both to lukewarm water, the hand from the hot water will feel cool, and the hand from the cold water will feel warm. This happens because thermoreceptors adapt to their recent environment, resetting their baseline so that the same lukewarm water feels different to each hand. It is a reminder that temperature is not an absolute number in the mind, but a relative sensation shaped by context. Thermoception also blends with touch in ways we rarely think about. When you feel a hot mug of tea in your hand, you are sensing both its solid shape through touch receptors and its heat through thermoreceptors. The two streams of information arrive in your brain side by side, creating a seamless perception. This blending is why it is so easy to forget that temperature is its own distinct sense. Separate from the feeling of texture or pressure, even the wind plays with thermoception. A cool breeze can make a warm day feel comfortable, while the same breeze on a cold day can cut straight through to your bones. The movement of air increases the rate of heat loss from your skin, intensifying the feeling of chill. On the other hand, still, humid air can trap heat, making a warm day feel oppressive. Your thermoreceptors don't just measure raw temperature. They respond to the rate at which your body is gaining or losing heat, blending environmental factors into your overall sensation. Some animals possess an even more refined thermoception than humans. Certain snakes have pit organs that can detect the infrared radiation given off by warm-blooded prey, allowing them to see heat in darkness. While humans cannot sense infrared in that way, we share the same fundamental principle: specialized receptors translating the language of temperature into a form the nervous system can understand. Thermoception changes with age. In youth, the system is generally more sensitive, responding quickly to small shifts. As we grow older, the receptors can become less responsive, making it harder to notice gradual changes in temperature. This is one reason why some older individuals may not feel cold or heat as acutely, and why they may be more vulnerable to extreme weather without realizing it. Your body's thermal awareness is not confined to moments of change. It is always active. Even now, as you sit wherever you are, your thermoreceptors are reading the temperature of the air against your skin, the warmth of your clothing, the slight differences between exposed skin and covered areas. Inside, your hypothalamus is watching for the smallest fluctuations, ready to make adjustments long before you notice them. The warmth of your breath as it leaves your mouth, the coolness of the floor beneath your bare feet, the heat that lingers in a room after the sun has passed, all of it flows through this quiet, unceasing channel of sensation. Even in sleep, thermoception is at work. Your body slightly lowers its core temperature at night, and if the room becomes too warm or too cold, this sense helps trigger the adjustments, kicking off a blanket, curling deeper beneath it without fully waking you. It is the unseen guardian of comfort, the one that ensures the conditions for rest, survival, and ease are kept within the delicate bounds that life depends on. There is a sense that keeps you upright without you ever having to think about it. A quiet constant in the background of every movement you make. Whether you are walking across a crowded street, leaning forward to tie your shoes, or simply standing still with your eyes closed, it is equilibrioception, the sense of balance, the subtle, unwavering awareness of your body's position in space. From the moment you wake to the moment you fall asleep, equilibrioception works without pause. It is what prevents you from tipping over when you bend to pick something up. It is what lets you stand on a moving bus without collapsing to the floor. It is what tells you, even in complete darkness, which way is up and which way is down. Without it, every step would be uncertain, every movement a risk of falling. The heart of equilibrioception lies deep inside your inner ear, in a structure called the vestibular system. This intricate system is made up of semicircular canals and two small, pouch-like structures known as the utricle and saccule. These are not just empty chambers, they are filled with fluid, lined with delicate hair cells, and equipped with tiny crystals that respond to movement. The three semicircular canals are arranged at right angles to one another, each one aligned with a different plane of movement, up and down, side to side, and tilting. Inside each canal is a fluid called endolymph, and at the base of each canal sits a small swelling called the ampulla. Within the ampulla, clusters of hair cells stand ready, topped with fine, hair-like projections called stereocilia. When your head turns, the fluid in the canals lags slightly behind, bending the stereocilia, which in turn sends signals along the vestibular nerve to your brain, telling it the direction and speed of your rotation. The utricle and saccule serve a different, but equally vital role. They detect linear movement, acceleration and deceleration, as well as your head's orientation relative to gravity. Embedded in a gelatin-like layer inside these organs are tiny calcium carbonate crystals called otoliths. When you move forward, backward, up or down, or when you tilt your head, the crystals shift, pulling on the gelatin layer and bending the hair cells beneath. This bending sends precise messages to your brain about which way you are moving or leaning. Together, the semicircular canals and the otolith organs provide a constant stream of information about your position and motion. But equilibrioception does not work alone. It integrates with your sense of vision, which gives you external reference points, and proprioception, which tells you where your limbs are and how they are moving. Your brain merges all of this input, creating a unified, accurate picture of where you are in three-dimensional space and how you are oriented within it. This integration is so seamless that you rarely notice it, unless it is disrupted. If you spin around quickly and stop, the fluid in your semicircular canals keeps moving for a moment, bending the hair cells as though you were still spinning. Your brain, flooded with conflicting signals from your vestibular system and your eyes, experiences dizziness. This same disconnection is what causes motion sickness. When you are reading inside a moving car, your vestibular system senses acceleration and movement, but your eyes see only the stationary page. The mismatch triggers nausea, a reminder of how dependent balance is on harmony between senses. Equilibrioception is not just about avoiding falls, it is the foundation for smooth, coordinated movement. Walking, running, dancing, even speaking with expressive gestures all rely on it. Athletes and performers train their vestibular systems alongside their muscles, refining their sense of balance to allow for precise control under demanding conditions. A tightrope walker depends on it for survival. A figure skater trusts it when spinning at high speed. Even a singer subtly engages it, maintaining posture and head position to control breath and resonance. Your sense of balance also plays an important role in emotional and psychological stability. Losing balance, even momentarily, can be disorienting in more ways than one. The sudden sensation of falling can trigger a deep, primal fear, because in our evolutionary past, a fall often meant injury or death. Conversely, mastering balance, learning to ride a bicycle, balancing on one foot in yoga, or gliding effortlessly on skates can bring a feeling of confidence and calm, as though the body has aligned itself not only physically but mentally. Interestingly, equilibrioception is not fixed. It can be trained, refined, and adapted. Gymnasts, martial artists, surfers, and dancers often have heightened balance awareness, developed through years of practice that challenge the vestibular system in increasingly complex ways. Even ordinary activities, walking on uneven ground, climbing stairs, or practicing balance exercises, help maintain and sharpen this sense. Particularly as we age, the vestibular system is also tied to reflexes that act faster than conscious thought. One of the most remarkable is the vestibulo-ocular reflex. This mechanism ensures that when your head moves, your eyes adjust instantly to keep your vision stable. Without it, the world would blur with every step you take. This is why you can run while keeping your eyes fixed on a sign, or nod your head while maintaining eye contact with a friend. Your eyes are compensating in real time for the motion detected by your inner ear. Balance also has a quiet influence over how we experience stillness. Standing perfectly still is not truly still. Your body makes constant, tiny adjustments to keep your center of gravity over your feet. These adjustments happen automatically, so quickly and subtly that you are rarely aware of them. They are the work of equilibrioception in its most constant form, a dance of micro-movements that holds you upright. The loss of equilibrioception, even partially, can be profoundly disruptive. Disorders of the inner ear, such as labyrinthitis or vestibular neuritis, can cause vertigo, a spinning sensation so intense it can make standing or walking impossible. Aging can also affect balance, as the vestibular hair cells diminish and other senses, like vision and proprioception, become less sharp. This is why maintaining and challenging your balance throughout life is so important, not just for movement, but for independence and safety. There is also a fascinating link between balance and space perception. Astronauts in microgravity experience a dramatic shift in equilibrioception because the usual gravitational pull on the otoliths is absent. Without this input, the brain must rely more heavily on vision and proprioception, and it can take days or weeks to adapt. Upon returning to Earth, astronauts may feel temporarily unsteady as their vestibular systems readjust to gravity as constant pull. Even in everyday life, we experience subtle variations in balance perception. Closing your eyes while standing makes you more reliant on proprioception and the vestibular system, revealing how much you normally depend on vision for stability. Standing on one leg, walking along a narrow beam, or balancing on an uneven surface challenges these systems further, sharpening your awareness of their cooperation. Equilibrioception also weaves itself into experiences we might not immediately connect with: balance, the gentle sway you feel on a boat long after you return to land, the strange sensation of leaning when you ray in a train that starts moving, or the grounding comfort of feeling your feet firmly planted on the floor during a moment of stress. All are moments where this sense makes itself known. It shapes how we navigate space, how we move with intention, and how we connect our physical body to the world's constant pull and motion. Thermoception is the silent guardian of your comfort, the sense that tells you the world is too hot, too cold, or just right. It is the awareness of temperature, not in abstract numbers on a thermometer, but as a lived, physical truth that touches your skin, warms your bones, or chills you to the core. Every moment of your life, thermoception works quietly, alerting you to environmental changes and helping you make decisions that keep your body within its narrow range of safe internal temperatures. The body is a finely tuned machine, and it can only function properly when its internal temperature hovers around 37摄氏度 98.6 度F. Even slight deviations can affect how you feel and how your organs work. Thermoception is the sensory system that warns you when external conditions threaten to push you away from that balance, allowing you to take action long before real harm is done. At the surface of your skin, scattered among millions of nerve endings, are specialized receptors called thermoreceptors. These tiny biological sensors respond to changes in temperature, sending rapid electrical signals to the brain. There are two primary types: cold receptors, which activate when temperatures drop below skin baseline, and warm receptors, which respond when temperatures rise above it. Together, they form a dynamic feedback network, constantly measuring the thermal landscape around you. The brain processes these signals primarily in the hypothalamus, the body's temperature regulation center. The hypothalamus does more than simply interpret the sensation. It actively manages your body's responses. If it detects that you are becoming too cold, it triggers shivering to generate heat, constricts blood vessels near the skin to conserve warmth, and may even prompt a craving for warm food or shelter. If it senses that you are too hot, it initiates sweating, dilates blood vessels to release heat, and signals the body to slow down activity to prevent overheating. Thermoception is not uniform across your body. Certain areas, like your face, hands, and lips, are more sensitive to temperature changes than others. This heightened sensitivity can be a matter of survival. When you touch something too hot or too cold, quick detection allows you to pull away before injury occurs. Interestingly, your perception of temperature is not purely objective. It is shaped by context, expectation, and adaptation. For example, a cool breeze on a summer day may feel refreshing, but that same breeze in the depth of winter might feel biting and harsh. This adaptability is one of thermoception's most fascinating qualities. Step into a hot bath and at first it may feel almost unbearable, but within minutes, your receptors adapt, reducing their firing rate so the sensation becomes more tolerable. The same happens in reverse when you plunge into cold water. The initial shock fades as your nervous system recalibrates. This adaptation prevents you from being overwhelmed by constant stimuli, allowing you to notice new changes more clearly. Thermoception also plays a crucial role in emotional experience. The feeling of warmth is deeply intertwined with comfort, safety, and affection. A warm cup of tea on a rainy day, the embrace of a heated blanket, or the gentle heat of sunlight on your skin can evoke a sense of well-being that goes far beyond the physical. On the other hand, intense cold can feel isolating, harsh, and even threatening, triggering instinctive behaviors to seek shelter and conserve energy. Beyond external temperatures, thermoception monitors internal changes as well. During illness, for example, the hypothalamus can reset the body's temperature to create a fever, which helps fight infection. You may feel chills as your body works to raise its internal temperature to this new set point. Conversely, in heat exhaustion or heat stroke, the thermoceptive system is overwhelmed, unable to cool the body effectively, leading to dangerous spikes in internal temperature. Thermoception is deeply linked to survival in the natural world. Early humans relied on it to seek shade in the heat of the day, huddle around fires in the cold, and adapt their clothing. shelter, and behavior to the changing seasons. It is also essential in the animal kingdom. Reptiles bask in the sun to warm themselves, penguins huddle together to conserve heat, and desert animals remain active at night to avoid the day's scorching temperatures. The way thermoception works is not just about sensing, but also about prediction. Your body can anticipate temperature changes based on environmental cues. Walking into a shaded area after standing in sunlight, stepping onto a cold tile floor in the morning, or approaching a campfire on a chilly night, your brain is already preparing responses before the sensation fully reaches conscious awareness. This anticipation helps smooth the transition between temperature states, reducing discomfort and preventing extremes. There is also an interesting interplay between thermoception and touch. While they are separate senses, they share pathways in the nervous system. This is why extreme temperatures can sometimes feel like pain. The nerve fibers involved in pain detection can also be activated by very hot or very cold stimuli. Touching ice for too long or brushing against a scorching metal surface sends urgent signals not just about temperature but about potential tissue damage, prompting you to move away instantly. In certain conditions, thermoception can become distorted. Disorders such as neuropathy can impair temperature sensation, making it difficult to detect heat or cold, which can lead to accidental burns or frostbite. Some individuals experience cold or heat intolerance due to thyroid disorders or other metabolic conditions. There are also rare cases where the brain misinterprets thermal signals, creating sensations of heat or cold without any external cause. Cultural practices often play with thermoception in fascinating ways. The alternating hot and cold experiences of a traditional sauna and ice plunge challenge and stimulate the thermoceptive system, promoting circulation and a heightened sense of vitality. Spicy foods, although not actually hot in temperature, activate heat-sensitive receptors in the mouth, creating the illusion of warmth. Similarly, menthol produces a cooling sensation by stimulating cold receptors without any actual drop in temperature. Thermoception is also a major factor in comfort design, from the fabric of your clothing to the climate control in your home. Architects and engineers consider it when designing buildings to ensure that people can work, rest, and live without thermal stress. Sportswear companies develop fabrics that wick sweat and regulate temperature, enhancing performance by keeping athletes in their optimal thermal zone. Even psychological warmth is intertwined with thermoception. Experiments have shown that holding a warm drink can make people perceive others as friendlier, while holding something cold can subtly influence perceptions in the opposite direction. These links between physical and emotional warmth may be rooted in early human development, where warmth was associated with parental care and survival. Your daily life is full of unnoticed thermoceptive decisions, choosing a warm shower over a cold one, reaching for an extra blanket, standing closer to a heater, stepping into the shade, removing a jacket after a brisk walk. These actions happen so naturally that you rarely stop to think about the sense guiding them. Yet without thermoception, the world would be a dangerous and alien place, stripped of one of its most primal forms of feedback, leaving the body adrift without its silent thermal compass. Chronoception is the quiet yet constant awareness of time's passage, the invisible sense that lets you feel the difference between a fleeting second and an endless hour. It does not depend on clocks or calendars but instead arises from a complex network of biological rhythms and neurological processes that measure, predict, and respond to the unfolding of moments. Even when you close your eyes and remove all external cues, this internal clock continues to tick, guiding your sense of when to wake, when to eat, when to rest, and how long you have been doing something. Without it, life would lose its flow, and events would blur into a disjointed stream without sequence or rhythm. At the center of chronoception lies the circadian rhythm, a roughly 24-hour cycle that regulates countless bodily processes, from hormone production to sleep-wake patterns. This rhythm is controlled by the suprachiasmatic nucleus (SCN), a small cluster of neurons in the hypothalamus that acts as the master timekeeper. The SCN receives signals from light-sensitive cells in the retina, adjusting your internal clock to align with the natural day-night cycle. This synchronization is essential, ensuring that your body's internal timing matches the environmental timing of the world around you. But chronoception is more than just the circadian rhythm. Humans also possess ultradian rhythms, shorter cycles like the 90-minute phases of sleep or the periodic fluctuations in alertness and focus throughout the day. There are infradian rhythms too, which span longer than a day, such as the monthly hormonal cycles in women or seasonal changes in mood and energy. These rhythms all weave together into a larger temporal tapestry, allowing you to orient yourself not only within hours and minutes but across days, months, and even years within the brain. Timing is managed by specialized neural circuits that operate on multiple scales. For very short intervals, such as the milliseconds that separate musical beats or spoken syllables, the cerebellum and basal ganglia play crucial roles. For longer intervals, the seconds and minutes and hours, the prefrontal cortex and hippocampus become more involved, integrating sensory input, memory, and attention to estimate how much time has passed. This interplay between different brain regions creates a layered sense of time, allowing you to tap your foot to a rhythm, wait patiently for food to cook, or recall how long ago you last saw a friend. Chronoception is also influenced by your emotional state. When you are deeply engaged in an activity, time seems to fly by. Hours can pass unnoticed because your attention is fully absorbed. Conversely, during boredom, discomfort, or anticipation, time slows to a crawl, each minute stretching endlessly. This distortion is not just a psychological illusion. Studies have shown that the brain's internal clock actually ticks differently depending on arousal levels, stress, and focus. In moments of danger, for example, the release of stress hormones like adrenaline sharpens perception, making events feel as though they are unfolding in slow motion. Your sense of time is also shaped by memory. Novel experiences seem longer in retrospect because they create dense, detailed memories that the brain interprets as having taken more time. Familiar routines, by contrast, blur together, making days and weeks feel shorter in hindsight. This is why childhood summers seem endless while adult years often feel like they pass in a flash. And novelty and change stretch perceived time, while repetition compresses it. Chronoception is not perfect, and it can be fooled. In the absence of external cues like sunlight, people placed in controlled environments often drift away from a strict 24-hour cycle, sometimes living on days that are slightly longer or shorter. Jet lag is another example of temporal disruption, where rapid travel across time zones throws the circadian rhythm out of sync, leading to fatigue, insomnia, and a sense of disorientation. Shift work, too, can challenge chronoception, as working at night and sleeping during the day conflicts with the body's natural light-based cues. Cultural and technological factors also shape how chronoception is experienced. Before the invention of mechanical clocks, time was often measured in relation to natural events, the rising and setting of the sun, the phases of the moon, the changing of the seasons. Modern life, with its precise minutes and seconds, has made time a rigid framework, creating a constant awareness of deadlines and schedules. While this precision allows for efficiency and coordination, it can also lead to time anxiety, where individuals feel pressured by the relentless march of the clock. The relationship between chronoception and the body is deeply bidirectional. Your internal clock not only keeps track of time but also prepares your body for what is likely to come. Just before waking, for example, body temperature begins to rise, blood pressure increases, and certain hormones are released, all in anticipation of the day ahead. Similarly, digestion and metabolism are tuned to the times when you typically eat, and physical performance often peaks at certain hours of the day, reflecting this anticipatory regulation. Chronoception even extends into areas where you might not consciously expect it. Athletes use it to pace themselves during competition, relying on an innate sense of how long they can sustain effort before exhaustion sets in. Musicians and dancers depend on it to keep perfect timing with a rhythm or sequence. Pilots and surgeons train to maintain precise timing under high-pressure conditions, where a fraction of a second can make a critical difference. Time perception can also be altered by certain neurological and psychiatric conditions. In Parkinson's disease, for instance, damage to the basal ganglia can disrupt the ability to estimate short time intervals. People with ADHD often experience a skewed sense of time, finding it harder to judge how long tasks will take or when to switch activities. Depression can make the days feel endlessly long, while mania and bipolar disorder can compress time, making events feel rushed and fleeting. Psychoactive substances, whether stimulants, sedatives, or hallucinogens, can profoundly alter temporal perception, stretching or compressing time in ways that feel deeply real to the person experiencing them. The aging process itself influences chronoception. As people grow older, subjective time often seems to accelerate. There are several theories for this. One suggests that as we accumulate more life experience, each new year becomes a smaller proportion of our total life lived, making it feel shorter. Another points to the slowing of neurological processes with age, which may affect how the brain encodes the passage of time. Regardless of the cause, this shift in temporal experience can make the later years of life feel faster than the earlier ones. In nature, chronoception is a survival tool. Migratory birds use internal clocks to time their seasonal journeys. Plants rely on circadian rhythms to open their flowers at the right time of day for pollination. Predators and prey alike depend on time awareness to optimize hunting, feeding, and resting patterns. This ability to track and respond to time is so fundamental to life that it exists in organisms ranging from bacteria to humans, each adapted to the temporal demands of their environment. In everyday life, chronoception guides countless actions that you perform without thinking. You sense when to cross a street before the light changes, when to speak after someone else finishes talking, when your coffee has cooled enough to drink, and when it is time to get up from your desk and stretch. It is the unspoken rhythm that holds your days together, the framework within which every moment unfolds, giving shape to experience and continuity to existence. Equilibrioception is the sense of balance, the silent yet constant guardian that keeps you upright, oriented, and coordinated as you move through the world. It allows you to walk without toppling over, to stand still without swaying excessively, and to navigate complex environments without conscious thought. At its core, equilibrioception is the brain's ability to integrate information from multiple sensory systems, particularly the vestibular system in the inner ear, visual input from the eyes, and proprioceptive feedback from muscles and joints, to create a stable sense of where your body is in space and how it is moving. Without it, even simple tasks like standing, turning, or reaching for an object would become challenging, disorienting, and sometimes impossible. The foundation of equilibrioception lies in the vestibular system, a delicate and highly specialized structure located within the inner ear. This system consists of two main components, the semicircular canals and the otolith organs. The semicircular canals are three fluid-filled loops arranged roughly at right angles to each other, allowing them to detect rotational movements of the head in all directions. When the head turns, fluid within these canals lags behind slightly, due to inertia, bending tiny hair cells that send signals to the brain about the direction and speed of rotation. The otolith organs, known as the utricle and saccule, detect linear acceleration and the pull of gravity. They contain tiny crystals, called otoconia, that shift in response to head movements or tilts, stimulating sensory hair cells to relay information about orientation and acceleration. This vestibular input is not processed in isolation. The brain continuously combines it with visual cues and proprioceptive data to maintain balance. Vision helps anchor your sense of position by providing a stable reference point in the environment, while proprioception, the awareness of your body's position and movement through sensors and muscles, tendons, and joints, offers constant feedback about how your body is aligned and how much force each limb is exerting. Together, these systems form a tightly coordinated network that allows rapid adjustments to posture and movement in real time. Equilibrioception works seamlessly when these systems are aligned, but even a small disruption in one can create profound effects. If you have ever spun in circles and then suddenly stopped, the sensation of the world still spinning is caused by the inertia of the fluid in the semicircular canals continuing to move for a moment after you stop, sending misleading signals to the brain. Motion sickness occurs when there is a mismatch between visual and vestibular input. For example, when you are reading in a moving car, your inner ear senses motion while your eyes, fixed on a page, report stillness. This sensory conflict can trigger nausea, dizziness, and disorientation. Beyond preventing falls, equilibrioception is essential for fluid movement and coordination. Athletes rely heavily on it to execute precise maneuvers, a gymnast performing on the balance beam A surfer riding a wave, or a basketball player pivoting on one foot all depend on finely tuned vestibular and proprioceptive integration. Even everyday activities such as walking on uneven ground, climbing stairs, or bending to pick up a dropped object require continuous micro-adjustments from the balance system. Without this subconscious regulation, each step would be a calculated and precarious effort. The vestibular system also plays a crucial role in stabilizing vision through a mechanism called the vestibulo-ocular reflex (VOR). This reflex automatically moves the eyes in the opposite direction to head movements, ensuring that your gaze remains fixed on a target even while your head is in motion. Without VOR, the world would blur whenever you moved, making activities like reading street signs while walking or watching a moving ball nearly impossible. This reflex is so rapid that it operates faster than conscious thought, adjusting eye position within milliseconds of detecting head movement. Balance is not static but highly adaptive. The brain constantly recalibrates equilibrioception based on experience and context. For example, when you learn to ride a bicycle, the first attempts are often wobbly because your vestibular and proprioceptive systems are unfamiliar with the specific demands of balancing on two wheels. With practice, the brain fine-tunes its responses, and eventually, the act becomes automatic. Similarly, sailors often experience land sickness after returning to shore, as their balance system temporarily readjusts from the constant motion of the sea to stable ground. Age can affect equilibrioception, as the sensory hair cells in the vestibular system gradually deteriorate over time, proprioceptive sensitivity declines, and visual acuity diminishes. This combination makes older adults more susceptible to falls, which is why balance exercises, strength training, and visual health are emphasized in aging populations. Rehabilitation programs for balance often include activities that challenge the vestibular system, such as standing on unstable surfaces, turning the head while walking, or practicing with eyes closed to strengthen neural pathways and improve coordination. Damage or dysfunction in the vestibular system can lead to severe balance disorders. Conditions such as benign paroxysmal positional vertigo (BPPV), caused by loose otoconia crystals drifting into the semicircular canals, can produce sudden and intense dizziness with changes in head position. Disease, characterized by excess fluid in the inner ear, can cause episodes of vertigo, hearing loss, and tinnitus. Vestibular neuritis and inflammation of the vestibular nerve can result in prolonged dizziness and imbalance. In such cases, the brain must often learn to compensate by relying more heavily on vision and proprioception, a process supported by vestibular rehabilitation therapy. Equilibrioception also has fascinating links to psychological states and spatial orientation. In complete darkness or sensory deprivation, the absence of visual reference points can make it much harder to maintain balance, revealing how much the brain depends on cross-referencing multiple senses. Similarly, certain illusions, such as standing in a tilted room or watching moving visual patterns, can trick the brain into feeling unsteady or swaying involuntarily. Astronauts in microgravity face unique balance challenges because the otolith organs, which rely on gravity to detect head tilt, no longer provide the same input. Over time, the brain adapts to this new environment, but upon returning to Earth, astronauts often need days to readjust to gravity-based equilibrioception. Training the balance system is not limited to rehabilitation or sports. It is also a key part of many physical disciplines such as yoga, martial arts, and dance. These practices often involve slow, deliberate movements, shifts in weight, and changes in head and body position that stimulate and strengthen the vestibular and proprioceptive systems. Such training not only improves stability but can enhance posture, spatial awareness, and even cognitive focus. There is growing evidence that maintaining good balance is linked to overall brain health, as the neural circuits involved in equilibrium also overlap with those used for attention, coordination, and spatial navigation. From an evolutionary perspective, equilibrioception was vital for survival. Early humans needed to climb, run, crouch, and leap across varied terrain while hunting, gathering, or escaping predators. The ability to maintain stability while moving quickly or carrying loads meant the difference between safety and injury. Even today, the efficiency and safety of daily movement depend heavily on the balance system. though we often take it for granted until something disrupts it. Children spend a significant part of early development honing equilibrioception, learning to sit, crawl, stand, and walk are all milestones in which the brain masters increasingly complex balance tasks. Play activities such as spinning, swinging, and climbing are not just for fun but actively stimulate the vestibular system, helping to refine motor skills and coordination. This is why playgrounds often include equipment that challenges stability. These experiences are essential for building a robust sense of balance that will last into adulthood. Even seemingly static activities engage equilibrioception, standing upright involves continuous, tiny corrections to posture, often shifting weight subtly from one foot to the other. These adjustments happen automatically as sensory feedback flows into the brain, prompting the activation of muscles that counteract any drift from the center of gravity. This constant background activity keeps you steady without conscious awareness, demonstrating how equilibrioception is an ever-present part of life. Whether you are walking, running, climbing, or simply standing still, imagine closing your eyes and tasting the color blue. Not imagining it, but truly tasting it, feeling it roll across your tongue like a flavor you've known your whole life, but never had a name for, or hearing a violin's high note and watching a ribbon of golden light appear before you, as if the music itself has painted the air. For most people, senses are like neatly separated rooms in a house, each with its own purpose. You have a room for sight, a room for sound, a room for taste, and so on. But for some minds, those walls are thin, or even absent. The rooms blend into each other, senses spill over like water through an open doorway. This is synesthesia, the blending of senses, where one type of sensory input triggers another in a way most people never experience. It is not a trick of imagination, it is a neurological reality for those who live with it. As real and automatic as seeing the sun and feeling its warmth, synesthesia is not a single phenomenon, but a broad spectrum of sensory interactions. For some, it might mean that letters and numbers have fixed colors. They might always be red, be always blue. For others, days of the week may carry personalities, as if Monday is a tall, thin man in a gray coat, while Friday is a bright, laughing child. Some may hear music and see swirling shapes or textures. The brain is cross-wiring sensory pathways, allowing one sense to spark another instantly, without conscious effort. Scientists believe it happens because the regions of the brain that handle different senses, like the visual cortex and the auditory cortex, are more connected in synesthetes, or their communication is less inhibited. In the brain's typical wiring, there are guardrails and filters, preventing sensory information from spilling over. But in synesthesia, those barriers are more like lace curtains, and light passes freely between the rooms. For centuries, synesthesia was treated as a curiosity, often dismissed as exaggeration or fantasy. It was the sort of thing artists might claim in poetic metaphor: I see music, I taste colors. But as neuroscience advanced, researchers discovered that synesthesia was not metaphor at all. Brain scans began to show distinct activation patterns when synesthetes experience their sensory blends. When a person who sees sounds hears a specific musical note, the parts of their brain responsible for vision light up as if they were looking at an actual object. It is not imagined, it is literally processed as a sensory event. This means that for synesthetes, their world contains layers of perception others cannot see, hear, or feel. A room is never just a room, it may carry a certain taste, or hum, with a soft color invisible to others. Some forms of synesthesia are incredibly specific. There is lexical gustatory synesthesia, where spoken words trigger flavors. Someone might taste cinnamon when they hear the word library, or lemon when they hear paper. There is spatial sequence synesthesia, where numbers or time are experienced as physical arrangements in space. Someone might see the months of the year as a ring encircling their body, or feel the number Y by floating just above their right shoulder. There is ordinal linguistic personification, where numbers and letters have personalities. 7 might be stubborn, the letter M might feel motherly. These associations are not invented for fun. They are consistent, stable, and automatic over a lifetime. For those without synesthesia, it can be hard to imagine how this constant blending shapes a person's experience of reality. To a synesthete, it can be as natural as breathing, so constant they may not realize others do not share it. Imagine living your entire life seeing the number 5 as green, only to discover in adulthood that no one else sees colors in numbers at all. Or picture trying to describe the taste of Tuesday to someone who has never had a day of the week arrive with flavor. Because synesthetic perceptions are so internal and personal, describing them to others is often like trying to explain a dream. You can give details, but the essence remains elusive. Science has uncovered fascinating clues about the origins of synesthesia. Some researchers believe all infants may be born with hyper-connected sensory pathways, experiencing a form of universal synesthesia early in life. As the brain develops, these connections are pruned, allowing each sense to specialize. In some people, this pruning process is less complete, leaving the senses more interconnected. This would mean synesthesia is not a special addition to the brain, but a preserved echo of how we all may have experienced the world in our earliest moments. There is also evidence that synesthesia runs in families, suggesting a genetic component. The trait does not seem to harm cognitive function. In fact, some studies suggest synesthetes may have advantages in memory or creativity, as sensory links provide more cues for recalling information. But synesthesia is not only about enhanced perception, it is also about how the mind constructs reality. We often think of our senses as delivering truth directly from the outside world, like a camera or a microphone. Yet synesthesia reminds us that perception is an interpretation, shaped by the brain's wiring. The world you experience is not exactly the world as it is the world as your brain assembles it. For synesthetes, that assembly includes textures, colors, tastes, and shapes that others do not encounter. This doesn't make their reality less accurate, it makes it richer in ways that defy the usual boundaries of the senses. Artists, composers, and writers with synesthesia have often drawn from their unique perceptions to create their work. The composer Olivier Messiaen described his music in terms of colors. The painter Wassily Kandinsky spoke of hearing colors and seeing music. For them, art was not a translation from one sense to another, it was a single, unified experience. Their creations were infused with sensory connections that others might feel intuitively, even if they could not experience them directly. It is possible that some of history's most innovative art emerged from minds where sensory boundaries simply did not exist. And yet, synesthesia is not always grand or overwhelming. For many, it is a quiet background to life, a constant but gentle blending that adds depth to ordinary experiences. The voice of a friend may always carry a pale green glow. The smell of rain may hum with a low note, as if the air were humming back. A page of text may be painted with subtle shades that match the letters and words. These details don't demand attention, they simply exist, like the color of the sky or the weight of a hand resting on your shoulder. Neurologically, synesthesia invites us to ask questions about the nature of the senses themselves. If sight and sound can blend in one person's brain, then the strict categories of the senses may be more of a human convenience than a natural law. Perhaps our senses are not separate channels, but overlapping fields, with more potential combinations than we normally experience. In that case, synesthesia may not be an exception at all, it may be a glimpse into a deeper truth of human perception. In the quiet space where senses merge, the world is not divided into sight, sound, taste, touch, and smell. It is a single, flowing experience, where colors can sing, where words can taste, where time can bend into shapes. Synesthesia is a reminder that the boundaries we draw between senses are drawn in our minds, and the mind can draw them differently in the end. This exploration of hidden human senses reveals that our perception of reality is far richer, stranger, and more complex than we often believe. From subtle subconscious cues to extraordinary sensory blending, each keynote has shown that the boundaries of our awareness are not fixed but fluid, shaped by the brain's wiring, evolution as quiet experiments, and our own capacity for attention. These senses, often unnoticed or misunderstood, expand the definition of what it means to experience the world. They remind us that reality is not simply what the eyes see or the ears hear, but a layered, interwoven tapestry of signals, feelings, and interpretations unique to each mind. By becoming aware of these hidden dimensions, we not only deepen our understanding of human potential but also awaken to the profound truth that the world we live in is far more alive, connected, and mysterious than our ordinary senses alone can reveal.